You're listening to JTE Movie Thinks. Is that the title? Is that correct grammar? All right, we'll go with it. It's a show about movies and thinking. And now, here's your host, every man's hero, JTE.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of JTE Movie Thanks. Another episode where I bring a guest on and we talk about the last movie they watched. This week I got a special guest. You could say I just kind of grabbed him out of the hallway. Mr. Jejuan Guillory.
What's up, man?
What's going on, buddy? So let's introduce the fine audience to who you are.
Yeah.
So as you guys know, me and Ken are now over at Defy Media, working for Screen Junkies. And one of the best things about working at this new awesome place is we get to meet some awesome new people. And you're a producer at Defy.
Yes.
You were brought on to help us with some Screen Junkie stuff.
Yeah.
And, we've been working together. And, one thing that I find everyone here at Defy, especially anybody around Screen Junkies, is we love movies.
We do love movies. And, this is a dream job for me. I mean, I worked in television for a while and, I did all kinds of different television shows. Mm-hmm. But to be with a company that loves to talk about movies,
yes,
loves to talk about comic books, loves to talk about video games. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would do this for free.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I'm so lucky. I want the audience to know that I know how lucky I am that I work with like these kind of guys. And listen, this is what I'd be doing on my free time anyway. I'd just be talking about movies, making cool stuff that has to do with movies. So to be able to work in this kind of field where you just get to talk about what you're passionate about, it's just awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I moved to LA years ago with the dream, Jejuan, of being a director. I never wanted to be an actor. But, of course, I want to direct. I want to go to Hollywood. I want to do a thing. But you know what? It's a 1 in a million shot to get to that point. And to just be able to be in the industry in some capacity and talk about stuff that I love, it's awesome, man.
It's awesome. I was just telling someone earlier how, the 3 pieces of content that shaped my entire imagination were Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
So that's good. Then Back to the Future and Indiana Jones. And that has stuck with me for my entire life. Mm-hmm. And I was a fan and wanted to talk about those things and be a part of it in some way, some capacity, some form, like you mentioned.
Interesting.
And then being able to work for a company that, loves and is passionate about the things that I love and am passionate about is great.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's like having your cake and eating it too. It's pretty much what it is. So tell us a little bit. The thing is, you didn't just start here at Defy. You've been working in the industry for a while.
Yeah.
Let the audience know some of the things you've worked on.
Oh, gosh. So I think my first day ever on a set was actually really for an audition. So I went out to be a stunt guy, one of the stunt players for Friday Night Lights television show.
Okay.
And really hit it off with those people. And I actually got a chance to, start working in their production office. And I was a production assistant on that show. And then over the course of time, I got a chance to be the assistant to Pete Berg on that show.
Peter Berg.
Met some people that ended up being my best friends in the whole world while I was working on that show. Yeah. Then moved on from there, worked on a couple of daytime shows, got really lucky and stood on some shoulders and won an Emmy.
Nice. What was the Emmy one for?
Yeah. It was for this daytime court television show called Christina's Court. So I did that.
Oh, okay. Christina's Court. I'm going to Google that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good run. It got me a statue, so I'm happy.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I worked on a slew of reality shows. They were fun. And then I did some pre-production on Battleship when I was working for Pete. Was in-house with a couple of different production companies. And now I'm over at Defy.
Over at Defy, where I met you.
Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, I love, I started off working on set, and I've worked on a lot of reality TV. I think it's one of the things the easiest things to get production jobs out here because they're so cheap to make, and studios can make so much on them that everyone's making them. I've been on pilot. I can't tell you how many pilots I worked on for reality shows. I never made it to air. But they shoot so many pilots a year that they'll even make it to air. But hey, you know what? It's worked for me. It got me work. And then I've worked everything from low budget movies to some big budget films. So it's pretty awesome that you never know where you're going to end up. I never imagined in a million years I'd be part of the Schmoes Know Show, Screen Junkies crew, and talking movies. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know. Even when I started working in television, this stuff didn't even exist.
That's right. It's a good point. The internet has really grown. From when I first moved to LA, it's just a monster to what it is now. Yeah, it's crazy, man. All right, well, like you said, you love movies. You brought some really interesting movies. Back to the Future, Return of the Jedi, and Indiana Jones. Why Return of the Jedi, by the way? Because I find it to be the weakest of the 3.
It was the first movie that I actually saw in theaters.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So we'll touch on, even though the last podcast I covered everything Star Wars trailer that premiered at Monday Night Football. What was your just quick overall reaction to that?
I absolutely loved it. I thought that right away, I think that J.J. Abrams' commitment to shooting on actual sets and doing as many things as practical as possible has really shown. I mean, immediately, I think you see a world that you believe in. You think it's real. There's a lot of depth on screen. You can tell they're not just walking around green screens the whole time. And I appreciate that. I mean, when you go back and watch A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, those were real places. They felt like, you were in the snowstorm on Hoth. You were in those places. So I think that's come back when you look at what J.J. Abrams has done. It looks like, a huge scale, looks like huge scope, looks like characters who are not wooden. That's one of the things I didn't really like about the prequel movies. Yeah, it's because the prequels, the characters seem very one-dimensional. They seem kind of wooden, robotic. Yeah. But in the trailer for Force Awakens, even though none of us have seen the full movie yet, you see the trailer, you see a myriad of emotions right away.
Yes.
You see people crying, you see anguish, you see agony, you see, a lot in the faces of these characters, which is already a huge departure from the prequels, which is good sign in my eyes.
Totally agree. All right, also, we discussed this a little bit before the show. Your name is Jejuan, and I immediately think of Jejuan Man. How long has that cursed you since that movie's come out?
Oh my God, I've heard Jejuan Man about 1 trillion times. What's funny is
not even a good movie.
Most people can't even tell you the plot of Jejuan Man.
It's true.
But if I tell them my name is Jejuan, people immediately say, "Oh, like Jejuan Man."
Yeah, that movie should have won an award just for a title that stays with you.
It's for whatever reason that title has stuck in the social consciousness. Yeah,
it's weird because again, not a good movie. I don't remember it being good. I never really seen it. I just remember the trailer and the premise being so ridiculous that the name maybe just imprinted itself.
All I remember is he dresses up like a woman.
He's an NBA player who loses. He gets kicked out of the NBA or he can't make it anymore. So of course he's like, well, if I just put on a wig, I pretend to be a woman. It's like Ladybugs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's he plays for the WNBA.
I gotcha. I will never call you Jejuan Man ever again. I never called you that. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Right, one person down.
If you would have said to me I never got that before, my head might have exploded.
Oh yeah, no, it's consistent. Yeah.
All right, well let's get to the part of the show where I ask my guest, you, Jejuan, what was the last movie you watched from beginning to end? And again, this is a movie that you couldn't have been forced to watch it. It can't be something you saw at a screening or you had to watch because who knows you had a project you're working on. I want something that you personally watched because you wanted to, whether it be on Netflix because it's something new, maybe it was a DVD that you've seen a million times but you just brushed it off the shelf, or maybe it was something, maybe you travel a lot, maybe it was on a plane, maybe you were forced to watch something but you ended up enjoying it. The only caveat I give you is you had to watch it from beginning to end in one sitting.
Yes, I actually have a good story with this one because my movie is Sicario. That is the last
Sicario.
movie. Sicario.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay, cool.
That is the last movie I saw from beginning to end, and I actually went to the theater with my wife to go see Black Mass.
Oh, the Johnny Depp? Okay.
Yeah, I went to go see Black Mass. I was really interested in that. Jesse Plemons is in that movie, and I met him and had a great time around Jesse doing Friday Night Lights. But we got to the movie theater, and I saw that Sicario was playing at the ArcLight Hollywood, and I'm like, wait a minute, game time decision. Which one do we go see?
Yeah, and the wife was okay with it.
She was okay with it. I convinced her because she loves Benicio del Toro.
Gotcha.
I love Emily Blunt. I love that whole cast, really.
Yeah.
And I was like, we have to see it, so we went to go see Sicario.
Awesome. Well done. Because first of all, I'll say good move. Because while Black Mass isn't a bad movie, it's fairly forgettable. I saw it. I forgot about it a week later. Sicario, I really enjoyed. It's a slow burn, but I really enjoyed it. I don't want to get into spoilers right away. I think we will hit some spoilers at the end because maybe some listeners haven't seen this yet. Even though it has a pretty wide release, I feel like it's not something that exactly blew up the box office. All right, so first of all, give me what your expectations were going into the movie. Were you familiar with the director and his past films like Prisoners and Enemy?
I was familiar with his past work. Prisoners, which I haven't seen, actually.
Oh, okay.
I've only seen bits of Prisoners, so I've never watched that all the way through. But from the trailer alone, Sicario, it grabbed me. It's the type of movie that I really like.
I love the trailer.
It reminds me a lot of Pete Berg's The Kingdom. Actually.
Yes, with Jamie Foxx, Jennifer Garner, and who else was in that? Was Piven in that?
Jeremy Piven was in that.
He was in that.
Jason Bateman was awesome.
That's right. Bateman's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
It's like a team that's in Afghanistan.
Yeah, they go over to investigate a bombing.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that movie now. Wow, that's one of those Peter Berg films I just kind of forgot about.
Actually, it's my favorite Peter Berg film.
Really?
Yeah.
Over Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor's close
Lights?
number 2.
Okay.
But The Kingdom is my favorite of his.
Interesting. That's one I kind of need to revisit because I remember really enjoying it, but I haven't seen it, I think, since theaters.
Oh, it's worth a rewatch.
Okay. I need to rewatch Lone Survivor too because I enjoyed it in theaters, but I felt like I need to see it again.
Visceral experience.
Very visceral, yes. Did you work on any of those Peter Berg films?
I was with Peter when he started some work on Lone Survivor.
Okay, cool.
I got a chance to talk to Marcus Luttrell, the real Lone Survivor himself, over the phone.
Oh, interesting.
But I was not on set for that movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Pre-production. I did post-production work on Valkyrie.
Yeah.
And the Tom Cruise, Bryan Singer film, and it's like so much work goes even after the movie's made. They still bring new people on. It's insane. All right, so Sicario. I've gone down and said I think I gave this like a 4.5 when I reviewed it out of 5. Maybe a little bit, maybe 4.3. I believe it's 4.3. Really enjoyed the movie. One thing I was surprised, especially because I was saying how much I love the trailer, I thought Emily Blunt was going to be a little bit more of a character piece for her when it really wasn't. It was kind of like she was being used in the movie to a certain degree without giving away anything plot heavy, but she's just kind of like the audience. She's the audience. She's just kind of witnessing everything, and we're kind of seeing it through her eyes, but we're never really like getting into like her, I guess, deep emotional or thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, how spoilery are we going to get here?
We'll get spoilery towards the end,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, like, were you surprised Emily Blunt was a little bit more, she wasn't given a little bit more to chew on as an actor?
I did. Going into the movie, you do anticipate it being Emily Blunt's movie. You figure that this is a story about her as an FBI agent. And once you see the movie, you realize it's what the title says. It's Sicario. It's really actually about Benicio del Toro, even though he doesn't have a ton of lines in the movie.
He doesn't have a ton of lines, man.
But it's more, his story does get told.
True. And the movie kind of even, at some point, like, I'm trying to find the words to say it. Like, his motivation is really what kind of drives the movie.
Absolutely. I mean, you're seeing his story through her eyes.
Yes, exactly. That's the best way to put it, actually. Josh Brolin also I thought does a great job doing the supporting role. But Emily Blunt, even though she's not given a lot to do, she doesn't have the deepest character development. I still think she does a solid job. But like, I remember going to theater thinking, I bet Emily Blunt is going to maybe get some Oscar talk after this movie. And I left thinking, if anyone's getting an Oscar nomination in this thing, it's Benicio del Toro.
Oh, Benicio del Toro, I mean, he's been in a lot of films. He's been great in a lot of films. But it's been a while since I watched something that he was in. I was like, I need more Benicio. Like, I want to see some more Benicio del Toro right now.
It's weird. Like, he came up in an Oliver Stone movie called Savages a few years ago where he did a really good job playing, again, a hitman for, like, a cartel kind of thing. And he also has done like some other smaller films, like he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, really quick cameo.
Savages is an interesting movie and pretty good. Yeah. Also featuring Friday Night Lights alumna.
Who? Oh, Taylor Swift.
Taylor Kitsch.
I say Taylor Swift. I said Taylor Swift. That's how bad I am. Taylor Kitsch. That's right. I enjoyed Savages. It's not like the greatest movie, but I enjoyed it. But Del Toro was definitely a highlight in that movie for me, and it's interesting because now he's getting cast in a lot of big roles. Apparently, he's going to be in Star Wars.
Is he really?
Yeah, he was cast as a villain for the next Star Wars movie.
You know what? I'll take more Benicio del Toro if they're going to give him to me because he in Sicario, like I said, he doesn't have a ton of lines, but he makes the most out of every scene.
Yeah, his presence alone.
Presence alone. I mean, he really plays that character very well. He does draw you in. You just want to know more about him. What's his deal? What's his story? And the whole time, he's a commanding presence.
Yeah.
And you're glued to wanting to know who that character is and follow his story on out, which you get to do. And that's part of the reason why I really did like Sicario.
Yeah, and I believe Roger Deakins is the cinematographer on this. Am I correct in that?
Was Roger Deakins a cinematographer?
Because he did Prisoners. I know he did Prisoners. And I'm pretty sure he did this movie too, because I would be surprised if it wasn't, because it looked amazing. Like, his films, I mean, same thing about Prisoners. When Deakins did when he did Prisoners, like everyone said, even I didn't love the movie as much as everybody else, and I still think you should check it out because a lot of people I talked to absolutely love that movie. I'm just in the one. I'm in that I really like it kind of deal. And yes, he did do Sicario.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. I think this movie looks beautiful, especially the nighttime. There's a lot of nighttime in this movie, and it just looks so damn good.
It does, especially I would say the first hour of the movie, when you get to travel down, I believe they go to Juarez, and they're in Mexico, and you're going through the city streets, and there's a confrontation that does happen.
Yeah, that's in the trailer.
Yeah, that's some of the best, that's one of the best moments in the movie, in my opinion.
Okay.
I love that scene. I love what takes place, the whole Juarez storyline, everything that happens during that part of the film really sucked me in. So I was on the edge of my seat from that. Well, even from before then, but I really enjoyed those moments, and they looked great.
Yeah, that is a great. The director does a really great job of building tension, and he did that a lot in Prisoners. I also think one of my favorite, maybe without giving anything away, but there's a very Metal Gear Solid type scene in this movie, like Solid Snake style, just going in and popping dudes left and right. And
Absolutely,
and that was filmed so beautifully, also. And I just love that sequence of the movie. It's towards the end, so I don't want to give too many details, but this is one of those movies you're going to go in, and I think you're going to be like, it's very interesting. It might test your patience a little bit because Emily Blunt's character is in the dark a lot, and therefore the audience is in the dark a lot. And at times you're just like, I don't really know why we're here or what's going on. But it all makes sense by the end of the movie.
I like a good mystery, though. I like a good edge of your seat mystery, and I felt like that's what I was watching.
Mystery, though?
I felt from my perspective as an audience member when I'm watching, there's a mystery to be unraveled. And that's the question that Emily Blunt's character keeps bringing up. Is like, why are we going down there? Why are we here? What's going on? She's not giving a lot of details early on.
True.
And as you're part of the audience, you're asking those same questions. You're trying to figure it out. Like, who is Benicio del Toro's character? Like, who is this guy? Why this seems unconventional? And she's letting you know that through her dialogue that it's an odd pairing of what's going on. And as that story begins to unravel, I think that's one of the really entertaining parts about the film is that story does unravel. You do get the full picture by the end, and then you're left with those questions like, did the greater good prevail?
Yeah, what cost do you do what needs to be done? Also, let's talk about the director, Denis Villeneuve. I think I pronounced that right. I hope I did. He's had some real critical success, especially with Prisoners. This film has done great on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's like close to the 90s, if not in the 90s. And he's getting great cast. But his next project is a big one. The sequel to Blade Runner.
Yes.
First, what's your thoughts on Blade Runner?
Blade Runner is one of my favorite films.
Oh, wow, really? Oh, man.
It really is. I know, I sound like just like a fanboy at this point where everything I'm talking about is like, oh, this is great, and I love this, and I love that. But I have to admit, that Sicario is a movie that I loved. I compare it a lot, like I said, to The Kingdom, which is a movie that I loved.
Yep.
And Blade Runner, who, the director's, next big project, is a movie that I love. But for all the same reasons. I mean, I think Ridley Scott is one of the greatest directors as far as drawing you into a world and make you believe that world exists.
Totally understand, yep.
When he did Black Hawk Down.
Love that movie.
I love that movie. You felt like you want to go take a shower because you feel like there's sand all over you.
Yeah,
you know?
bullets and sticky blood. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel like you're just in the middle of a firefight and there's a dust storm or there's sand all over you. You're sweating, you're hot, and he puts you in that world. I felt like that in Blade Runner, that was a future Los Angeles. When you're seeing it for the first time, once you land and you get inside the city, you're like,
doesn't feel like you're on a set.
No, it feels real.
It feels like you're in a real futuristic setting. It's insane. He's always been so good at set design.
Yeah, and it feels like a place you want to explore.
Now, how do you feel with him, giving up the reins and putting it in the hands of this young filmmaker who has a great visual style, but has nothing he has done has come close to being the type of movie that Blade Runner looks, or set design. Like, I almost hope I wish Ridley Scott could just do everything but the directing, like set design, storyboards. But this guy, I do think when you watch Blade Runner, it's a very layered story, and there's a lot of meaning behind a lot of things, right?
Yeah, of course.
And whatever his name is, Denis Villeneuve, he always has an underlining meaning to his films.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned Prisoners before, and even though I haven't seen the whole movie, I am familiar with the storyline and the plot. Yep. And if you look at Sicario, what's similar between the two is you're at what cost You know, right? It's like, you know, there's that old saying, you know, what does it profit a man to gain the world, but you lose your soul, right? And I feel like in Prisoners, it's like, you know, what cost, you know, how far will you go to get, you know, your loved one back? Or is there a right? Can you go? Are you allowed to go as far as it takes? You know, does the means justify the end? And so it's the same thing. And I think in Blade Runner, it's also this question of like, you know, there's some moral questions in Blade Runner.
For sure.
And I think that, you know, he'll be great at exploring that. And I'm okay with Ridley Scott giving up the reins because I think George Lucas could have given up the reins a little earlier with Star Wars.
Ridley Scott and George Lucas are two different directors.
They are.
Ridley Scott's still making great movies once in a while. Yeah, he's made some bad ones. Counselor was not very good.
That was his worst.
Yeah, the Robin Hood, while it looked amazing, wasn't that good.
Great.
I think that was, but I blame more of that on script. So I think they went in with making that movie a totally different script, and they just flip-flopped at the last second.
He's dealt with some bad scripts lately.
Yeah, so I think, you know...
Prometheus wasn't the greatest script.
Yeah, Prometheus definitely has some problems, but I'm really curious to see what this guy could bring to the table. I can understand what you're saying. It's maybe a good idea to give it someone else's hand, give it a fresh eye.
Yeah, but also, you know, Dennis is also great with, like you mentioned before, building tension.
Yeah.
And Blade Runner has a lot of that creeping around, tension, dangers around the corner, in the dark, you know. And Dennis has really proven himself with being able to do that. And so if he injects that into Blade Runner, basically, you know, recaptures that and brings that out of Blade Runner again, I'm totally fine with that. I'm sure he can find a production designer, you know, to make sure. I mean, he's awesome.
Well, Roger Deakins is coming along for the ride, and that almost
great cinematographer.
We know it's going to look amazing.
Right.
You know, it's Blade Runner is a really great film, but it's not everyone loves it. Like, I have friends who don't get it right away, and it takes them a while to really fully kind of appreciate the film, especially like younger kids. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate a film until they're older. That was kind of the case for me. Like, when I watched it, I don't think I got it the first time. It wasn't until I got older and I watched more films and I became a little bit more of an aficionado in filmmaking that I really kind of grew to appreciate the film.
Oh, I mean, Blade Runner is visually, as a kid, when I was younger and it grabbed me, the visuals and the sci-fi world that it created really drew me in. As an older, you know, now being an adult, I can go back and I watch, and now I appreciate Harrison Ford more. Rutger Hauer.
So good.
I mean, now I have such an appreciation for his character and his performance, at least, you know, especially at the end of that film.
Yeah.
It is so good.
Blade Runner has one of the best endings, I think, of almost any movie ever. That line to me, is one of the best lines ever, where he's holding the pigeon. They're on the rooftop, and he goes, he's like, I've seen battleships aflame. And then the last line is like, he's basically like, all these memories will be lost, like tears and rain.
I'm like, who wrote that? Because that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I wish I could have thought of that line. Like, it's such a good line.
You could cut just 30 seconds out of that movie.
It's an epic moment.
Without any context or what's going on, you just take that 30 seconds out and you'll be blown away.
It's an epic moment. It's a beautiful shot.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful line.
The music's
beautiful
amazing.
Music.
So
it's
good.
Great.
So I really hope, you know, Harrison Ford apparently is going to come back.
Well, you know what I would like for them to bring back, too, as well, is some of that synth music. A little bit of that synth score.
I would hope so. I think he's going to, I'm really curious to see how much he takes from the Ridley Scott style, if he just really tries to make it totally different on his own.
Well, I'm hoping that he goes out, grabs Tangerine Dream, drags him into the studio, and, like, give me a score.
Give me a score.
Yeah.
I think, you know, he's got a big hurdle against him with Blade Runner. It's never a great idea to make a sequel to a movie that's considered an all-time classic.
Now, are those Ryan Gosling rumors true, or did...
I've heard so many rumors. I mean, I have no idea.
Okay, I need to go back and look.
Gosling is in it,
I like him.
I could see him doing it. Look at Drive, where he barely spoke.
I think he was great.
It was a very, like, physical kind of appearance. I could see him playing an android.
You know, and
maybe
the movie wasn't
Howard.
great, but was that movie he was in Only God Forgives?
Yeah, I liked it.
I didn't love that movie, but I liked him.
Yeah.
If he is in Blade Runner, I would be happy about that.
Yeah, him playing like a Rutger Hauer type role almost would be pretty interesting, actually.
He probably could do that pretty well, actually.
Yeah, I really think he could. So, Sicario, getting back to the movie a little bit, do you feel like this thing, did you walk out of this thing thinking this has a chance for Best Picture? Or, I mean, we already mentioned that I think Del Toro could get supporting actor depending on how strong the field is this year. Do you feel like a Best Picture is even possible, or do you think it's too early?
I don't
Came out too
think
early.
I don't think it'll get Best Picture. I think it's going to be up against a lot of competition this year when it comes down to Best Picture. So I don't think it gets a Best Picture nod, but it is one of those movies that I think that is very enjoyable, very entertaining.
It is a slow burn at times too, though.
It's a slow
It
burn at times.
reminded me a little bit of Zero Dark 30 at times. Did you see Zero
Yeah,
Dark 30?
because you're on a manhunt, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did see Zero Dark 30.
Female protagonist.
Yeah, and Chastain is great. I like her a lot.
Yeah, Chastain's amazing. I think.
You know, Emily Blunt, Chastain, Jennifer Lawrence, they're all up there for me. It's
Okay.
like, you know, the women are leading the way right now.
I think when I saw a trailer for this, because she was coming off of the one with Tom Cruise, Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. And she was such a badass in that movie. And when I saw the trailer for Sicario, I thought, oh man, we're going to get like another badass. She's not going to be just like some girl who's like holds a gun. She's going to be like a badass, kind of like Sarah Connor type thing.
Yeah.
She's really not like that in the movie. I mean, yeah, she has some moments where she's...
God, she's so great. I mean, I'm just a huge fan. I would take her in just about any movie because she could... If you actually did a good Terminator movie and you needed a Sarah Connor,
she'd be great.
I think she's first choice.
But that's the thing.
I mean, I get into an argument with a good friend of mine about Black Widow in the Avengers movies. I'm like, Scarlett Johansson's great. Not to knock Scarlett Johansson at all, but if they could have gotten Emily Blunt, if it would have worked out and she would have been Black Widow, I think you get even better
It should
Black
be better.
Widow. Yeah.
Interesting. I never heard anyone say that before.
I love, like I said, I love Scarlett
Yeah.
Johansson. Think she's great. She's great in everything. Her, whatever, you know, she's awesome. But I do think that Emily Blunt would have been a better Black Widow.
Well, a lot of people are pressing her to be the kind of front runner for Miss Marvel.
I'll take it.
You take it?
I'll take
See
it.
her blonde hair going in there?
I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think she could do it. We'll just see. I mean,
Looper. She was great in Looper.
oh, loved her in Looper. I love that movie. But yeah, she played a really strong female in that one. And yeah, she's great. She's really underrated, I feel like. And I was really kind of hoping Sicario would be the movie that would put her into that Best Actress category. But like I said, I don't think the character is given enough to do.
Her time's coming. She'll get hers. She'll get her best guy.
She'll
she
get
will.
hers.
She'll get her best guy. Get her best actress nomination. I have no doubt.
Okay, so what would you... so you say go see Sicario.
Absolutely. I think it's a really great movie. It's not your typical studio film.
Definitely not.
You know, so that's cool.
I don't think any of Villanova's films have really been that yet.
Yeah, which is great. You know, I think by now, almost anyone who frequents the theater has a feel for what the studio formula is like.
You need to see Prisoners. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that movie. Prisoners, I really enjoyed it, but it's 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
And maybe it might be actually closer to 3 hours long.
Hey, man, I like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal's great, and he's really good in it. And Hugh Jackman, like, it's nice to see him get that kind of meaty of a role outside of, like, X-Men and, like, Les Mis. So I really enjoyed Hugh Jackman. He was probably my favorite performance in Prisoners.
And did you see End of Watch, the other movie Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah, it's a great movie. Directed by, what's his name? The guy who's doing Suicide Squad. Oh, crap. David Ayer? No, David...
Ayer.
David Ayer, yes.
Yeah.
David Ayer. It's great because End of Watch was fantastic. And then he followed up with Sabotage, which was not good.
Right.
And now he's like... Then he did Fury, which was really good.
Which was really good. I really liked
and
Fury,
now he's doing Suicide Squad.
I own that movie.
Oh, you do? Which
Yeah,
one? Fury?
Fury.
Yeah, same here. I really enjoyed that movie. It felt like a Vietnam War film, but set in World War II.
Yeah, right? Exactly. That's actually a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, so great. I say, guys, check out Sicario. Definitely one of my favorites of the year. It might make my top 10, depending on how strong the fall season is. But yeah, it was definitely left a mark on me. And it's the other films that I saw recently that I really enjoyed over. I love Steve Jobs. Have you seen Steve Jobs yet?
No, but I'm going to see that this weekend.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm seeing Steve Jobs this weekend. And then I'm actually still I'm gonna go see Black Mass. So I might do a little double feature.
Nice. Oh, you're gonna catch up on Black Mass.
Yeah, catch up with Black Mass, see Jobs, and then dude, it's all about Star Wars for me. Bro.
I'll be interested to hear what you think about Black Mass. We'll talk next week. All right, so let's get on to quick thanks. I basically tweeted out saying that we're about to record, and I want to hear what some of the movies that are my listeners, my followers on Twitter have seen, and I want to hear what your thoughts on them.
Sure.
Maybe you haven't seen them. Maybe you have. Let's talk about it. All right, so Josh at 500 Days of Josh, cool name. His last movie he watched was Inherent Vice. Did you see Inherent Vice?
Oh, Inherent Vice. Josh Brolin, right?
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah, his big film after The Master. Before this, he did There Will Be Blood. Did you see it?
I did not see it, but what's funny about it is the poster art actually really got me because I really like that style.
Okay.
And I love Joaquin Phoenix.
Of course.
I think he's great. I like Josh Brolin.
Yep. Great cast.
So I do need to see it.
Owen Wilson's in it too, actually.
Owen Wilson's in it?
Yeah, he's in it too.
I need to see it. I didn't hear great things about it.
All right, well, let me tell you, I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. And I love... it's the first film from Paul Thomas Anderson that I can truly say I didn't like. I liked Punch Drunk Love. I liked... Master is a very tough film to get into and watch, but I could enjoy it just for the filmmaking qualities and just the performance from Philip Seymour Hoffman, R.I.P., and Joaquin Phoenix. Their performances are amazing, but I just couldn't find anything to really like about Inherent Vice. I was bored. I didn't understand what was going on. I did not like the movie.
If someone watches or someone listens to this and they can tell me how you define that poster art for Inherent Vice, like what do you call that? I'd like to know because I think I love that style.
It's like a neon.
Yeah, that neon
Yeah, I don't know.
80s kind of.
70s,
if there's a specific name for that, I would love to know what it is.
All right, Josh Wingard, 2 Joshes in a row. At Wingard Josh, The Exorcist.
Oh, wow.
You've seen Exorcist, right?
Jeez, the scariest movie of all time, yes.
Is that what you consider to be the scariest movie of all time?
That is absolutely the scariest movie of all time, in my opinion.
Okay, interesting. It's up there. It's up there. I always put The Shining up there too, but they're 2 different kind of scaries.
Yes.
I feel Shining is more atmosphere.
Yes.
And the filmmaking, I think, is a little bit more... It's so
nuanced.
It's so different, too. Whereas Exorcist is just straight up disturbing.
Exorcist is in your face, like unsettling, disturbing, shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it now. If you watch The Exorcist right now, you're going to be like, and you've never seen it before, you're going to be like, that's a shocking movie. Think about when it came out.
In the 70s, yeah.
In the 70s. I mean, my father-in-law said it messed him up for a week. Mm-hmm. For me, when I was in my teens when I saw it, and I was terrified going home.
I believe it. I mean, I wish, I would. This is one of those, when I think of some of these older films, I always think about what the theater experience must have been like. Imagine being in the theater the first weekend Jaws came out, or even Star Wars, the first Star Wars, or even, for me, the first Exorcist is up there. Like, because I'm not that old, my experiences, I think of Jurassic Park. Like, that's one experience I'll never forget. But imagine being in that theater for Exorcist and just being like, what the am I watching?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you walk out of there shaking and, like, I mean, I remember I saw it at a friend's house. He had, like, VHS, you know? And I get in the car, and I'm, like, on the way home, driving home, and I'm checking back seats. Like, I'm expecting something to pop up in my back seat, like, in the mirror. Like, I'm so freaked. I go home. I sleep with my lights on. Yeah. It's terrifying. It's disturbing. I mean, we grow up, and, I'm an American, you're an American. Yep. We grew up here in this country where there's a history of religious belief and all this stuff. So we have this in our bones, the devil and demons and stuff like that. And when you start to play with those ideas, they really freak you out.
If you guys out there listening, Paul Mooney is a comedian who worked with Richard Pryor. Best friends with Richard Pryor, was a writer with Richard Pryor. He has a great bit where he talks about him and Richard Pryor going to see The Exorcist, not knowing what it was going to be, and I was laughing my ass off because they left. Oh God! Half into the movie, they just left. They're like, F they this. Said, "F this!" Like these white people are crazy. Yeah. It was so funny. All right, next one is Royal D at A View to Kill 00. I guess. At A View to Kill 00. Royal D. Fellowship of the Ring. The very first Lord of the Rings movie.
Fellowship of the Ring, awesome movie.
What was your experience when this movie came out? Because this was kind of a landmark kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think I went with 15 people.
15? You went with your own 15, fellowship.
Yeah, I went with about 15 people. No joke. I went with about 15 people to see this movie.
You went with a fellowship to go see Fellowship of the Ring.
At about, it must have been like a 10 a.m. showing, because I mean, that thing was selling out like crazy. Yeah. Highly anticipated movie. I mean, people know the Tolkien books and people had seen the animated movies. And a fight almost broke out because people are trying to buy popcorn, and while they're doing that, you're trying to save a row. 2 of the lone soldiers, they're saving a row for 15 people, that just doesn't work out too well.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah, so, we worked it all out and we saw that movie. I loved it. I thought it was an amazing adaptation. Peter Jackson knocked that out of the park. I don't think anyone could have done it any better.
It was amazing.
Elijah Wood was awesome. Boromir, awesome.
Yeah. It was great
Right?
to see a fantasy film taken seriously. And I think
Absolutely.
Spielberg was a huge champion of this film when it came out. Because someone who loves fantasy, it was always kind of seen as a joke in Hollywood. Like, Lord of the Rings kind of changed the way Hollywood thought about fantasy films.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a type of person. You hear me, talk on this podcast about a film. You may not hear me throw out too many like critic type words that people use, like pacing and tone and stuff like that. Because I truly am a movie fan. So I go to movies because I like to be entertained. And like Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, that was a movie that I was highly entertained. I thought it was exciting. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was like you said, it was taken seriously, and it couldn't have been done any better. I loved every performance in that movie. I think Peter Jackson had a great vision for it. The action was well choreographed, well done. I mean, what more do you want?
It's an amazing movie. I still say it's maybe the greatest trilogy ever made. I put it over Star Wars solely because it finishes stronger than Star Wars.
Ooh.
I told you, I feel Return of the Jedi is, even though I understand Empire is a bigger film than Lord of the Rings, all three of them, if you're just looking at telling a story from beginning to end as a trilogy, I don't think anything does it better.
I will say this. Frodo Baggins, his journey and his character arc is stronger than Luke Skywalker's.
Thank you. And Aragon.
I might get some hate for that. But
Yeah.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah, so I love Star Wars.
But
People
I would say his journey is more epic, and
Yeah.
his personal journey is more epic than
Yeah,
Luke's.
I just think it wraps it up better than Return of the Jedi did. Mike Rodriguez at Mr. ODZ11. Hard Rain.
Oh,
Christian
Hard
Slater.
Rain.
Morgan Freeman. The town is full of rain and floods, and Morgan Freeman decides he's going to rob a bank, and Christian Slater is the lone sheriff in town to take him down. This was back when you take an action movie, you had any kind of natural disaster, and it becomes an action disaster movie, which is not a very good movie, but I love it's just such a 90s premise.
Hard Rain, I'll tell you what, Christian Slater is underappreciated in general. I love Christian Slater in films.
Oh, really?
Look, I saw Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Kevin Costner.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I like him, I think he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the best Robin Hood ever.
Totally agree.
But Christian Slater, just having him in the movie was great. And Morgan Freeman was in that.
Hard Rain felt like a Broken Arrow 2.0.
Yeah, I mean...
I love Broken Arrow. John Woo's earlier
Oh, yeah,
film.
absolutely. Hard Rain is it's a 90s movie, right?
Totally, it is.
It's just straight down the middle 90s movie, and it's not one of the best of them. It's
cool
middle of the road.
But you know what? A lot of people forget this. Morgan Freeman doesn't play villain very often.
That's a good point.
And Hard Rain is a cool way to finally see him play like a bad guy, kind of like almost John Lithgow type, or Gruber type.
No, it's true. That's true. That's a good point.
Really dig that movie. I mean, it's a bad movie, but I enjoy it. Let's go one more here. Let's maybe do one more. Miss Movies at Miss Movies, friend of the show. Been on the fan cam. Before Pee-wee's Big Adventure, I watched Gremlins for the first time.
Oh my god.
She watched Gremlins for the first time. I don't know what you were doing in the 80s.
I was a kid.
Or your whole life. Because Gremlins should be watched at a much earlier age, especially around Christmas. But yeah, do you love Gremlins?
I absolutely love Gremlins.
Of course you do. Who doesn't
I
love Gremlins?
absolutely love Gremlins. And as a kid, I wasn't scared of Gremlins. I just loved it. Were both of now I have to ask a question because I don't remember. Were both Gremlins movies set Christmas?
No, just the first one. The second one was taking place, I think it might be close to the fall, but it's nowhere near.
The second one got some flack for racial stereotypes with the Gremlins and all that stuff. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's kind of like before Phantom Menace did it.
Yeah, so it caught some flack for that. But the first Gremlins was great. I did remember it as kind of a Christmas movie.
Yep.
Kind of like you do with Die Hard or Lethal Weapon.
Yeah,
you kind of see it as like a Christmas movie. Like I would watch Gremlins during Christmas, the holidays.
It's like a horror Christmas movie.
I love those twists on Christmas. That's why I like I like all Lethal Weapon and
yes, I love
Iron
Lethal
Man
Weapon.
3, you get a little bit of that.
Yeah, all Shane Black right there.
Yeah, Shane Black. I'm a fan.
Christmas.
I'm honestly a big fan of Shane Black.
Same here. Last one. I think this is fitting because it is October 20th, 2015. Tomorrow's the 21st. Let's talk about Back to the Future 2.
Yes.
Because after tomorrow, because we're recording this on the 20th, when you watch Back to the Future 2, you'll no longer be seeing the future. You'll be seeing the past.
Mind blown.
You know what I mean? And we have yet, out of all the things that were in that movie, besides flying cars, I think I want the shoes that tie themselves.
That would be cool. Hoverboard is the
cool,
number
but
one.
It's not as practical. Hoverboard's a fun time. I want to be able to just put my shoes on and then boom, let's go.
I mean, you know what? I'm sure that can be done right now if somebody wanted to.
I feel like it should
They could
be.
absolutely do that.
Come on, Nike.
But I think Blade Runner's not that far off either, right? Blade Runner happens around 2015, doesn't it?
No, I think it's 220 something.
Is it 220? But it's not that far away.
No, it's not that far. We're never close to that. Something's gonna have to happen.
But my mind is blown when you mentioning that we will no longer be seeing the future when we see Back to the Future.
Yeah,
what?
I know.
Dude, I can't believe it. Yeah.
It's a mind bender. But listen, I love Back to the Future 1. I think it's one of the greatest films ever made. I think it's like Frank Carpa, who did It's a Wonderful Life. It's like that version for the 80s.
You know what? Absolutely agree with you. I love
Frank Capra. Sorry, I know people are gonna give me shit for not pronouncing his name right. Frank Capra.
I mean, the Jeep, the vest, the freaking Marty's vest. I mean, the whole thing just screams 80s and God, it was just such a fun time when you were a kid seeing that movie. And then Universal had the ride. They had the Back to the Future ride.
The reason that movie will never get old to me, no matter how old it is, how late in the years it gets, is the premise is still one of the best premises I think that everyone can relate to. Everyone has parents. Everyone, I don't care who you are, at one point you wonder, what was my parents like as a kid?
Absolutely.
I still to this day what was my mom like in high school?
Would I be
friends with her? That's the question. Yeah. So this premise will always intrigue people because I think everyone thinks about that at least a few times in their life, and it's so fun to see it get played out in a movie. I mean, they hit a gold mine. The script's fantastic. Zemeckis' directing is fantastic. Now Now we're talking about the original. I think the sequel is not as good as the first one, obviously,
right?
But it's fun in its own way. And
yeah,
I love the fact that they went back to the first movie. They went back to time to see the scenes from the first movie. That's so inventive. I'm just even if it's not the best script or as good as the first one, it's still so much fun. It's doing so many interesting things that movies haven't really done before.
Yeah, and I'll actually say I think maybe the second one is the weakest.
No, 3 is the weakest.
I like, okay, but let me tell you why. I like the third movie because I grew up liking Westerns and I like Clint Eastwood. And Marty was a fan of Clint Eastwood.
That's true, yeah.
I
mean, I love some of he calls himself Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, he's a fan of Clint Eastwood, and I love Clint Eastwood's Westerns. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, all those movies, Hang 'em High, and so apparently Marty was too. And you know what else we're missing? There hasn't been a character like Marty in a movie in a long time.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I guess for me, it's just the whole train scene at the end.
That was kind of weak.
Kind of weak.
That was kind of weak, but I like him being in the Wild West.
Here's the problem: we spent the whole movie in the West.
I like the West.
I do too, but if they would have spent maybe a third of the movie, because remember, the sequel, Back to the Future 2, they go to the present, they're in the past, then they go to the future. They jump around a little bit. If the West was 1/3 of the movie and they went back to a little bit more to some of the other times, I would have been totally fine.
Okay, I'm not going to take up a lot of your time, but I will say this. First movie takes place in the 50s, which is really cool.
Great.
Like you mentioned, great story about going back and seeing your parents and would you be friends with them and all that.
Yep.
The first one is such a classic.
Classic.
Love that movie. The second one, people will never forget hoverboards.
Yeah.
That sticks with you.
Yeah.
I like all the movies, so I love Back to the Future. I told you the 3 movies that shaped my life, or my creative life, or anywhere, are Return of the Jedi, Back to the Future, and Indiana Jones. The third movie, I like the West. I like all the call-outs to Clint Eastwood.
Me too. I think it's cute.
And all that, and I just like that world they had a little bit better than the future that they had, minus the hoverboard. Hoverboards are badass no matter what, but yeah.
All right, well, we disagree a little bit, but I think overall we did really good. This was great, man. So glad you were able to do the show. We'll definitely have to have you back on. Do me a favor. Tell these people where they can follow you on Twitter and where else they can find you.
Yep, they can find me on Twitter at J_Gill. That's J_GUILL. That's my Twitter. And, I'll be around, and you can see me also. Never on the Defy stuff because I'm behind the camera.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be back.
He's the one. He keeps the wheels turning here, people. So all right, guys, catch me every Sunday night on Box Office Breakdown. I host that show with Tom Dagnino and Sarah Stratton, where we cover the box office numbers. Also, you catch me every Thursday at the Schmoes Know, just talking movies, dropping up movie knowledge left and right. Also, I engineer movie fights for Screen Junkies, and I'm always with these Screen Junkie guys now. So anything Screen Junkies, watch it because they're awesome. It's entertaining, and yeah, I'm a very lucky person to be working with all these great people and get to talk about movies every day. Do me a favor, if you're listening on iTunes, you feel like we gave you a 5-star podcast, I feel like we did, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Leave a comment. Say, hey, you did a good job. And if you like Jejuan, man, let us know. I want to know if the movie's actually any good. I've never seen it. All right, once again, Jejuan, thanks so much for coming, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys, keep watching those movies.